Good morning. My name is Njeri Kinuthia, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for being here. And a little bit about me, I was actually born and raised in Kenya, and I moved to the US in 2021 to pursue my master's degree in fine art. And that is how I know that young gentleman there, Tim, because he graduated in the program that I just graduated from 2 months ago. So it's really exciting to be here. Um, Now that I've graduated, I'm still making art. That's the most important thing, but I'll also be teaching at UCF 2D design and painting, so I'm really excited about that. So I'll be around and part of the art community here, the creative community in Orlando. Well, pattern. I grew up in Africa, in Kenya, in a small village called Dogoto, which is actually a mispronunciation of Scotland, believe it or not, because we were because during colonization and missionary activities, one of the first churches to be set up was in my little village, and so they called it the Scotland Church. So that area was called the Scotland Church. But how would locals that never spoke English before even pronounce that? So they called it Logoto, and so that's where I'm from. And so we have this vibrant textiles and colors, and we love them so much. So if you look at these images, these are what is widely recognized as African pattern, similar to what I'm wearing now. And they have an interesting history from Indonesian textiles, and they were introduced by the Dutch traders in Africa. And now they are made inspired by African pattern, Indonesian and Dutch stuff. So it's all this combination of different backgrounds, and that's how they came to be, and they're very popular. So when people see this, they consider them African patterns. But we also have this, which are very significant in my work. They are characterized by this border around them and the text. So this in specific says, Sina Sirini Najibu, which translates to, I have no secrets, just answers. So remember that when it's Q&A time. So these textiles are very interesting because they're mostly worn by women all around East Africa, very popular. I think every woman has one, and some have multiples of them. But sometimes they used to communicate things that you wouldn't be very comfortable telling someone directly. So some of them can be a little bit passive-aggressive. Like, for example, if your neighbor is knocking at your door every time borrowing something, I actually do have one of the textile that says, stop waiting for what you're getting for free, go out and seek your own. And because women are supposed to be the nice people avoiding conflict in spaces like the coast of Kenya, that's why they use this means to indirectly communicate with your neighbor, for example. Now, if I gift this textile to her and she gets that I'm trying to say something to her and she comes to me, I can say, well, I bought it because I like red and I know you like red and I can get away with that. And that's how I started using this textile in my work. The prior inspiration actually came from this very specific practice in my country that we call dowry payment or bride price. So in this ceremony, we have the women lined up and they're covered with these textiles, the ones with text in the border. They're called lassos. So I'll be calling them lassos from now on. And the man then tries to select their wife from all these covered up women. If they get it wrong, they will pay a fine that will go towards the down payment. Well, for me as a feminist, I really have never been comfortable with the whole idea of dowry payment and bride price because I believe it's commodification of women. And I don't believe that I am worth 99 goats, which is the rough estimation of how much I'm worth, but I just graduated with a master's degree, so I'm worth a little more goats than 99. But so I just never felt that it's right. So I took the inspiration and started this series of work called Smothered, and this one was the first one that I did. I was actually doing a self-portrait. I had had my classmate take pictures, and when I was making this, I felt, because you could see my face, but that's not how I felt that culture had affected me. I felt that sometimes culture can really suppress our true identity when you're trying to conform to the cultural norms and you're trying to fit in. So I covered my whole face, and this felt like the perfect representation of what I had been feeling. The culture had affected my identity, stifling me, and the suppression. So this is actually pastel on paper, and I did another one, much, much bigger. This was the second one. And I really didn't know what to do with my background. So I cut them out and I mounted them on gator board. So they are freestanding and they create these nice shadows and it becomes an object. This one is one of my favorites called the Smothered Smooch. And I actually did this during the peak of the Iranian protests. My very close friend at the time was deeply affected by the Iranian protests that came about because of the hijab. And well, I was feeling sort of almost the same way, but with my culture, because at this time I was creating work. But believe it, no one was seeing this work outside of UCF because I was terrified about what people in Kenya or my family will think about the work I was making. So I was also feeling the same kind of suppression and thinking about the queer community too, and how there is this tension because of one's religion or one's culture, and that keeps people from being together, and that's how this came about. I did beaded smother, and so far everything I've shown you is a self-portrait, apart from the other one where I have my friend with me. And this one is in his name. Mungu is Swahili for God. Now, apart from these texts being very passive-aggressive sometimes, a lot of them are also religious because East Africa is 80% Christian and we also have a Muslim population. Now, from my observation, I believe that culture, religion, and politics have for a long time perpetuated the suppression and oppression of women in many ways. But women will wear these fabrics that say things like, God is my strength, or God is my fortress. That's what this one said. So by wrapping and suffocating this woman in this fabric, it was a critique towards religion for doing this to women and for having some really unbelievable and restricting laws or norms that affect the quality of life of women. And with the beads here, I used something beautiful to create a wound, and that actually addresses gender-based violence, which is very prevalent in my country, and I believe it's perpetuated by the bride price because a man has paid for you, so they own you. And also religion as well, because the man is the head of the house according to the religion. Therefore, you must submit or respect or obey your husband. So if you're being a stubborn wife, if you're not submitting and meeting all their needs like you're supposed to according to the Bible, then sometimes this happens to women. Looking at me smothered, so I explored pattern in a different way here where I combined drawing, and this one is quite big, 50 inches tall, where this is drawn and I collaged the pillows and the rest of it is drawn, all pastel and fabric. And I was thinking of my life here in the US. I was feeling a little bit more free. And I remember when I first got here and I was in New York, Manhattan, and the very first time I wore shorts, booty shorts, was a very, very significant moment in my life. It's actually a core memory. You know those life-defining moments that you have? Mine wearing booty shorts and walking in the streets of New York is one of them. It was so exciting. I did something that, now that I think of it, people must have thought I'm crazy. So I had my phone videoing myself walking and just feeling no one is jeering and staring and throwing stones or calling me a slut or calling me names. And it just felt so freeing. And I felt that I could do anything in the world. I felt so powerful at that moment because I was very restricted from where I was coming from. I had to wear stockings every time I wore a dress. I had to cover my sleeves. And so it was very freeing for me. And I remember when my friend visited me and she was wearing shorts for her first time, we screamed. We were screaming. You will think, I don't even know. It was just a very exciting moment for us because she had been used to wearing a hijab from her country and covering her entire body. So sometimes we take some little things for granted, but when you're walking in shorts in the hot sun in Florida, I hope you realize that that's actually not something some women have access to. So I actually did a couple of drawings of me in booty shorts that went in my thesis, and I call it Free at Last. And you may think I'm being dramatic by calling it that, but that was actually a very special moment in my life. So that's what I was thinking when I did this drawing. So that this represents my past life in Kenya and my current life, and I am completely bound. And here I am freer. I'm actually looking at the past me and feeling empathy, not only for myself, but other women in that situation. I also started experimenting with physical materials instead of drawing. I did this using fabric and beads on wood, and I call this Star of Hope. Well, my work is not just about confronting and complaining. It's also a celebration. So I celebrate resilience and liberation through my work. And this is one of the diptychs that I did. It's called Still Here 1 and 2. And as you can see here, I have bleached out the text, which is more visible here. It says, God is our refuge. And by putting my image on this, using bleach and imposing my image on it, it is me taking my place in a culture that oppresses women and saying, hey, I'm still here. I mean, you tried to erase who I am by placing all these restrictions in my life, but I still persist. And this one, Njeri the Great, currently at the Orlando Museum of Art for the Florida Prize. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, please do. It's a great exhibition, 10 amazing artists. And 6.5 feet tall, that's quite big, way bigger than me. Fun fact, when I started doing this, it started as a very small portrait, but it kept growing bigger and bigger, and I had to keep adding paper until I was working from the ceiling, like took a bend. Should have seen me on a ladder doing this, and it's making my presence much bigger than I am because I was bullied a lot for my size, right? And so imagine right now I teach college, so half my students, no, more than half my students are taller and bigger than me, right? So that is something that I've had to deal with for a long time, especially because in my country, the bigger you are, the better. So being bigger is exalted. So I struggled a lot with my self-esteem. So creating big self-portraits became a way of placing myself in conversation with the current world, or having just having people in a gallery or a museum looking at images of me and I am bigger than them makes me feel better about myself. So that's Njeri the Great. I do look a little bit muscular too and strong, and thoughtful. This is like me at maybe 45, I think. And I have this one. Looks a little bit pixelated. But that is Sina Sirenina Jibu. So this is painted on acrylic. And then I sewed fabric at the edge. So during wedding ceremonies, the women present lay these fabrics down for the bride to walk on, something very ceremonial. And so by me stepping on these fabrics naked is actually quite rebellious and saying, well, I do not conform to all this. I will not conform to all the norms or whatever marriage dictates that I will be, right? And it says, I have no secrets, just answers, which is the translation of the text that is here. Also at the museum for the Florida Prize. This one is one of my favorite artworks. I call this Hail Reverend Njeri. And that is the same portrait at the museum. It is hung about 130 inches from the ground. How tall am I? I'm 5 feet tall. That's like 60 inches. So that's like twice, that's taller than any of you. So by making myself so tall that when I look at myself, I'm like, whoa, okay. And everyone else is looking at me in such a way. It is also just whatever I was talking about when I was talking about my previous Njeri the Great work. But this one, this is how it looked like in previous shows. But this time, it actually grew and took over the windows of the museum so that it has this huge presence. In the morning, when the sun shines on it, it looks like stained glass, and it's very beautiful. So way back, I used to be a preacher in Kenya. I was actually an evangelist, doing door-to-door evangelism and praying for sick people in the hospital before I started questioning things. So my friend, when I came to the US, registered me as a reverend as a joke. It was just meant to be like a gag joke, right? And I received an email, congratulations, Reverend Njeri, and I thought that was really funny, so I posted it on Facebook. And my family was really surprised because in my country, for you to be a reverend, it's just more than going online and registering yourself, right? So that's when I started thinking about that. Hail Reverend Njeri, so that's the title of this. Here is another one called Mama. This was actually done to celebrate 25 years of the Orlando Arts Magazine, which is now Artistry. And they gave 5 grants to 5 people to make public art for them. So you can actually go inside this one, and it feels like a fort. There are pillows inside, and it's really warm and cozy. And I was thinking about the strength of women and celebrating them, because despite her being bound, she still has her arms out and is welcoming you, and you can come in, and it's a safe space. So that's what was going through my mind. And that then inspired this. This is 11 feet tall, and this is 17 feet tall. And this one, a bunch of people can go inside. I should have had pictures of people inside. So 17 feet tall and 34 inches perimeter. And it has a bunch of artworks inside. Don't know if you can see some of them. It's like a little gallery where you look around and discover things. It has a little bit of little sculptures in there too. But it also has this figure in the middle, and it says Kuna Matata. Now, during the opening, I loved to see people's reaction when they read that, because they instantly misread it and they were very proud of themselves. They're like, oh, Hakuna Matata, but it doesn't say Hakuna, it says Kuna. Hakuna means no worries or no trouble, from Lion King. But this is kuna matata, so it means the opposite. It means there is worries or there are worries or there are trouble, just the opposite of kuna matata. So the realization of someone instantly thinking they know what it says and then realizing that, oh no, so it makes you think more deeply about what this is about. So this figure here is bound and there's all this metal, and I have used I have rusted it. So the text on this metal is actually rusted, and it says different things. One of them says you can milk education more than cows, and the other one says vicious cycle, mother daughter, mother daughter, mother daughter. This was inspired when I was watching a documentary on child marriages. And there were two girls, a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old, that were about to get married off so that their father can enjoy the bride price, the goats and cows that I was talking about. And these young girls really inspired me because one of them said, over my dead body, you cannot sell me. And if you take me to school, you can milk that much more than you'll milk the 99 goats and cows that you will get for my bride price. Now, it's very sad that in these communities, sometimes they'll sell off the daughter and the bride price will educate the boys in the family, which is really unfair. So the girl also says it's a vicious cycle, mother, daughter, mother, daughter. And if you think about it, sometimes internalized misogyny or sometimes even women themselves enable the kind of oppression in such communities or even in our current world, right? Sometimes we resist our own change. And so that artwork there is, and on the other side, I don't know if I have a picture for that. No. But the other side of the chest, it says not for sale with a rusty text. So, well, I guess it's a good thing I don't have the other side, so you can go to the museum and see this and see all the other awesome works by other artists. And yeah, so remember what I had said, that I was really scared about showing my work outside when I joined the program in 2021. Until last year, May, I really never showed my work outside of UCF because I was terrified. And not and it only happened after I won an award that I applied to. Now, this award, I wasn't even planning on applying because I thought my work contains nudity and my work is activism, my work is feminist, and my work also critiques society and religion. So I thought there's no way this can go out there. If I do win the award, which I can't because I have nudity in my work and that's a no-no, then they will do a press release and then it will be on our website and on Facebook and everyone will know and I'll be in trouble. But my classmate bullied me into applying it. She was like, you have to do this. Oh, and I did. And I won $5,000. And I had my first show outside of UCF in the US. And they did a big press release on the UCF website. And it was out. So now I'm calling my family, hey, just won an award. It's $5,000. For what? Art? What art? And because I had been saying that I was doing theory, I was taking theory classes, I wasn't making any art, and I was just keeping that away from everyone in Kenya because I was so terrified. But the moment I stepped out and decided to do it, then good things really happened, and I got a lot of support from everyone and the community around. Had a solo show at Snap Gallery, did a couple of shows, City Arts, at the museum, and less than a year, I was invited for the Florida Prize. The Florida Prize, for those who haven't had a chance to see it, is 10 of the most progressive artists across the state. And that was a big honor. It was unbelievable. To me, it's still surreal having my name on that list at the museum entrance. and that big banner. It means so much to me because I was so scared to have my work out there. Now, had I not applied to this thing that was so terrified, I wouldn't be here. So sometimes the best thing you can do is just do what really scares you most. I mean, what's the worst that anyone could have done? They're in Kenya. They can't really beat me up from here, right? And yeah, and I'm so glad I did it because I wouldn't be here now. I mean, I wouldn't have been invited here if had I stayed in hiding, right? And I remember thinking to myself, so the company that gave me the first award is actually a law firm, and their exhibition gallery is at their lobby. I was thinking to myself, there is no way a law firm will have a nude big picture of me in their lobby. I mean, that doesn't even make any sense. Now, not only did they give me the big check, but also featured my work for a year at their space. So Njeri the Great, the big naked one, was at their lobby for a whole year. And me thinking that I have the support of UCF and a law firm and local institutions and galleries made me feel really supported, that it really helped with my fears. Anyway, all that to say that sometimes we are actually the ones sabotaging our success. You think you'll be in trouble? I thought I would be in trouble even here with some institutions. Well, my work is the only work at the museum with a warning of nudity at the show right now, but that's okay. At least they have my nude work, and I went there a week ago, and I made an appearance, and I didn't tell people I'm the artist, and I was just observing. The number of children in my installation looking at my nudes and not crying and being scared was just so exciting, because I thought, oh my God, well, if I have nudes, then no children will enjoy my work, and my work will be censored, and I'll be in trouble. But sometimes the fears that we have are not even real. It's just in our head. No one really cared. I mean, I took pictures and spoke to parents, and parents wanted me to take pictures with their kids in front of my naked artwork, and that was just so surreal. Like, even babies, I'm like, oh, wow, okay, thought I'd be in trouble, especially with the politics right now in Florida, but no, it was just in my head and me thinking that I'll be in trouble, but no. Yeah, and that is the end of my talk, and I'll take questions. Remember, I have no secrets. Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
I just wanted to say I was at Flip Fronts, and I loved your work. I actually
Thank
stepped
you.
inside of that piece. I didn't realize that was you until you started talking to me, because I never actually got a chance to meet you. But yeah, your work was fantastic, and as you pointed out, there were some really provocative artists that night. And I do want to confess something, though. I did not vote for you because I was with somebody, and she said, you have to vote for somebody that fit the Iranian in protest.
Right.
However, I am glad that you won anyway, because I really did love your work, and I actually do have a picture of the outside of the baby steps, what you were saying. Oh, I could get a picture of it. I actually have a picture of it too.
Oh, thank
Your
you.
work is fantastic. Really, it's not even a question, just a few some praise, but I do want to say one thing about your work. There was a piece you showed earlier, and I was so blown away that I loved it, because I typically don't feel connected to pieces, like I think it's pastel on paper, that look photorealistic. And it looks like a photograph. It looks like a texture so alive that it looks like a photograph. And I remember thinking, oh, I don't like this. I don't like the idea of something looking like a photograph. It's not a photograph. But I loved yours because it was so vibrant. There's so much, I don't know, just such a really kind of alive quality to it that I just loved. And like changed my whole ideology about what I think is about a certain work, which is so fascinating. Again, that you're here today, because I had no idea that even when I spoke to you outside, I didn't realize that you were the artist from the photographs.
Oh.
And again, I'm glad that you won. You were fantastic.
Thank you, thank you. So what he's talking about, that night, the opening night of the Florida Prize, I actually won People's Choice. That means I had the most votes. So the people spoke. I mean, that means that people were not bothered the subjects of my work, which was really scaring me a year ago. So yeah. And also, I'm from this small village. I don't even know if you people can picture it. Like, I didn't even have an address. Actually, reason, fun fact, when they posted, the Creative Mornings posted my bio, my close friend actually Googled my university from Kenya. And this is also my very close friend, so she sent a screenshot in a group chat saying, I just searched your university and it says on the highway. My university doesn't even have an address. So now imagine how much worse my village was. Like this little unnamed road, unnamed everywhere, dirt road, like really small. So now having a chance to be in the Florida prize was just so surreal to me, let alone winning the people's choice. Like I've come so far in 3 years. And it only happened when I decided to just let go of the fear of what people will say or think. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, wait, oh, sorry. With that, how has, it's not gonna be intrusive, but, like, have your family or your community, have they accepted your art? Have they seen it?
Oh,
Is
yes.
that- yeah.
Oh, yes. They've been extremely supportive, extremely supportive. You see that piece in Njeri the Great, the one of me with my boobs out? My dad reposted that because he was so proud of me. That's the same parents that I was scared that they would see my work, right? But now they're very, 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 very proud of me. Very proud of me. There's been a lot of articles also featuring my work. And with the Florida Prize came a lot of publicity too. So, yes, they've been very supportive. I do get some messages on Facebook from women sometimes that I are shaming them or I shouldn't be doing the nude female figure because I don't know, it's not right. I don't know, God will do what to me, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I do get that sometimes, but most times it's the support that I've been seeing. Yeah. Yes.
I'm curious what got you into art, like growing up, and then why choose. I know sort of significant with like these fabrics, but like, why? At what point in your life were you like, yeah, I want to be an artist and I want to do this?
Actually, my dad is an artist, very talented, but I just didn't think of myself as an artist until high school, and I was making these sketches, fashion sketches, and I wasn't sure about them. So I made a little book and I passed it around my classmates to leave comments. And they were supportive. They were like, this look great, this look great. So I decided to do fashion design. So I went to university to do fashion design, but I became more interested in fine art. So I started doing commission portraiture. And that's how I actually got into fine art. And then I started painting. That was in 2017. Was the first time I'd say I did something towards fine art. And I had a couple of shows in Kenya, major cities in Kenya, and we had one in Norway and Germany. And I was like, oh, this thing is for me. So I decided to pursue my master's in fine art.
I'm glad you did, and I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much. Yes.
I also saw your work at an art gallery. I was at UCF a couple months ago. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
So, as all this, I've been wanting to ask you for months, how does color theory play into your patterns? Especially with the, I think it was looking at Miss Smothered, you were talking about how it's like empathy and you see like some blues and red like blending together, surrounding everything, and it's like you're sucked in. So like, how do you decide to like choose a color to showcase what you're feeling about that?
Okay, so actually, I use the color wheel a lot. Actually, when I was picking my outfit last night, my partner was like, I said, I'm gonna wear red, so I'm gonna wear green earrings. He's like, you should wear red. I'm like, that's boring, Tony. He's a graphics designer because he knows color theory. So I took the color wheel and I showed him. red is the complement of green. So why would I wear red with red, right? So when I'm making my artworks, deciding what will be in the background, I actually do use color theory a lot sometimes. Maybe it's not so noticeable with like all the pattern. Like this piece, I was starting with yellows, so I made the undertone purple, and like the one you were talking about, I think is this one.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think about color theory, using the color wheel. I think that's really important. But I don't want to do what is just so direct, like wearing red with red. I like to have the contrast sometimes, and I look at what color is standing out or what color is the most, I don't know, minimalist in the painting, and that's how I decide. So color wheels are important. Yeah. Yes.
So the topic of patterns is really interesting because although you're honoring patterns, you're also really breaking free from the pattern.
Yes.
And it's more like social activism too.
Yes.
I'm curious because you are a feminist and an activist. When you go back to Kenya after wearing booty shorts in New York and feeling free, how do you feel when you go back, and how do you kind of like reconcile your progress and going back home?
That's a very good question. So I haven't been to Kenya yet since I came here, and I've also been worried about that. But I really want to have a show in Kenya, so I want to have an exhibition in Nairobi before I go there, or go to the opening of my show. So that way I'm having conversations about myself from the lens of my work. Yeah, I know I'll be in trouble with some people. That's fair, especially because I say things about religion and culture and pattern, which is culture. So yeah, hopefully I get a chance to show there, so I can have a chance. Oh, hopefully I get an interview when I'm there, so I can say things and then fly back. So I think I will have like an interview knowing, oh, I'll be out by the time it's out, right? Just in case I get in trouble for something. Yeah.
How has sexual identity or themes of sexuality been a catalyst for your work?
Actually, that was the first thing I was doing in my first year. You remember my print. So in my first year, I did nothing but draw vaginas. That's all I was drawing, because I felt I'm coming from this little village where topics about sex and sexual identity are taboo. And now I'm in this country where I can draw anything. I had gone to the museums in New York and had seen really, oh my God, works that shook me. Like, how dare you have that in a gallery? So that's all I was making in my first year. And I remember my professor telling me, you had to go through that. I was making that because it was my way to celebrate the freedom that as a woman, I can actually explore my sexuality. And as someone who also finds women very attractive, that's why even this smothered, and that's why I made that one. And it's pretty clear. And yeah, it's still a conversation in my work. Although right now it's not too much because I have been more focusing on the activism side of it and the oppression of women, but it's still there. And also using my nude body, I believe, is also a catalyst for that conversation about sexuality. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes.
I just had a question about your process. Do you, when you do self-portraits, do you photograph first and then start from there, or do you go from memory?
I photograph. I wouldn't do it from memory because I've actually been practicing drawing from a mirror and it's not as easy. So I use, yeah, like that one. I just set my camera on a stand and then looked down because I wanted people to look up and I can meet their gaze. So I think about what I want and then set my camera. I'll have my friends take pictures of me too. Sometimes we stage those scenes in my studio. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love the perspective behind this particularly. Because I love that, like, I think you brought up to she asked her a question about the contrast. I think that's what makes your work seem so vivid to me. And why, like, the one that was like photorealistic,
Thank you.
it felt like, it looked like a photograph, and again, typically, I feel detached from that, and it's not really a photograph. But it's like, oh, this is alive, like in the way that you can see animation move in the movie. It just felt like, this felt so real to me. And so
Thank you
truthful.
so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. And so you see, even in this one, the underlayer is red, so my head wrap is green. Yes.
So when you're doing this, like these are self-portraits and everything, you're considering lighting. Obviously, you can see the number here. You're put at the museum. You have to give them direction on like, because they're being lit, right?
Right.
You have to take that into consideration.
Yes. So far, I have shown this specific artwork 5 times in different places, and the lighting is very important because I do want some sort of concentrated lighting on the face so it looks like a halo, you know, because it's a reverend and it's meant to be like an authority figure. So yeah, I do have to direct the lighting in most cases. I had it also in South Carolina, so I wasn't able to direct the lighting. So in such cases, it's not as good as I'd wanted. So showing locally or being able to be there during installation really helps with the lighting because we do want like the sort of the gradient, as you can see, so that the light just is on one place, but it's also soft on other places. Yeah. Yes.
With your background in fashion design, do you design the textiles or do you design them?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually do not design any textiles, but my next project will be all textiles designed by me. So I'll be printing my own textiles, and within the prints, I'll have like hidden little figures doing things like that. But for example, this one was actually donated fabric. I would say a good percentage here was donated by my very close friend Stella from a collection of textiles that she had over the years. So this is all African fabric from here. And then this is actually from different cultures. So if you look closely, you'll see some things like Egyptian, there's South American, there's Asian, whatever, a lot of patterns. So I received donations from women who live in Orlando, and the rest of them, my mother actually ships them from Kenya. So the last batch I have, I was on FaceTime with them and my brother, my mom and my brother, and I pick them at the shop and then they ship them to me. So I believe it sort of makes it collaborative so that it's like a community. And this one was actually inspired by the nomadic traditional houses built by Kenyan women. They use sticks and thatch and mud and just naturally available resources because they're building very temporary structures. So yeah, that was inspired by them, but I decided to patch all these fabrics together because it also gives the idea of coming together. Thank you. Yes?
Yes, do you have any shows coming up and how can we support you?
Oh, thank you. Well, here's my website. If you scan this, you can also follow my Instagram. So I will be having a solo show next year, open in May. I don't even remember the date, but it will be at the Albin Pelagic Museum in Winter Park. I'll be making site-specific installations as well as new work. So that will be very exciting. I'll be posting updates on my Instagram and my website. Right now, my show, not my show really, the Florida Prize that has featured my work will be up until August 25th. So you have a chance to go see it, please do. And I'll be doing a gallery talk on the 7th at 1 p.m. 1 p.m.? August 7th? I think it's 1 p.m. 1:30. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so look forward to seeing you there. Also, if you're interested in collecting any of my work, you can contact me through my website. Yes, there's a lot more work that I didn't show in this presentation. I have made a lot of work in the past 3 years. Yeah, so thank you.